Hello, Internet, and welcome to my review of Attack on Titan episode 41. When we last left off, the scouts were kind of in the shitter, as everything that could go wrong went wrong. Erwin has been framed for Dino Reeves' murder and is now awaiting execution, and a good bit of torture. The scouts have been declared all criminals and are being rounded up by the MPs, with the singular exception of pretty much Levi Squad. There's also some tragic backstory for both Historia and Erwin, where Erwin got into the weirdest topic in the show's history. Apparently the king can alter memories. Also, somehow Hanji found out that Titans can gain the power of other Titans they eat by, somehow just by that weird little conversation Amir and Bertold had that really was not enough information to really go off of. But whatever, I'm going to accept that, because that does not really play into this week's episode. And we're going to jump right on into episode 41. So we open up with Marlo and Hitch, two MPs who were like co-workers of Annie way back at the end of season 1. And we have a conversation that really shows a big theme throughout this episode with the two of them and with Nile, is this kind of lack of uniformity in the MPs that I really appreciate. It makes this war a whole lot more interesting. You know, Titan at its worst can kind of become a bit of a like black and white, good guys versus bad guys, rebellion versus empire kind of deal. Except not rebellion versus empire, because this is not Star Wars. But and Titans can't think; they're mindless monsters. But anyway. But seeing Marlo and Hitch actually have a discussion about whether or not the scouts are evil, with Marlo being like, they're trying to save humanity, and look at all they've done beyond the wall, and they're the only ones really pushing for us to, expand, and Hitch, who, to her credit, just is like, yeah, but they killed 100 people last week, because it's been maybe a week since the end of season 1 in universe, and that's always something really, really weird to notice, because it's been 5 years since season 1 ended? Jesus Christ, I'm getting old. I mean, I didn't even watch it when it first came out. I didn't watch it until the Toonami broadcast in 2014. But still, it's wow. But yeah, anyway, my sudden realization of my own age notwithstanding, it still is really nice to see this kind of conversation that they kind of discuss where they stand in the world. But then, they find Armin, and they go to arrest Armin, because they recognize, they see someone who turns out to be Armin. They have a stream, and they tell him to stand up, and they see his ODM gear, and they're like, oh yeah, that must be a scout. But then they are captured by Levi and Mikasa, saving the day. But then we cut back to what I'm assuming is still Trost, right? The whole Flagel story is in Trost, right? It's got to be Trost. But before we get to the Flagel story, we see two reporters are questioning Nile, who is Erwin's old friend from their cadet days, I think, about what's going on in the city, or with the Reeves murder. And Nile, to his infinite credit, does not. All the other MPs are saying yeah, Erwin did this. Erwin ordered the hit. The scouts are evil. And Nile's like, yeah, that's what it looks like. And Nile, we see really throughout Nile's role in the episode that he's really kind of on the break of joining Erwin. As we see later on, I'm pretty sure Erwin does straight up say please join the rebellion. That's kind of how I interpreted their last scene. I'll get to that in a little bit. But good on Nile for not just backing up the MPs blindly. He's more than a little cautious about it, and he's especially cautious of Kenny's squad's, ODM guns. As he says, they have no use in killing Titans, but are damn good at killing people. And he's worried that he'll be the one on the end of that stick. That's really all we get with Nile until the end of the episode. But after that, we have the guy who kind of becomes the standout star of the episode with Flagel Reeves, Dino Reeves' son, who is on the run from the MPs because, he saw Kenny kill his father, and he is saved by Hanji, and I think it's Moblit with her, because Moblit is normally the one with Hanji. Um, and, Hanji gives this impassioned speech to try to get him to, like, join the cause, give up your life to avenge your father. And Flagle just outright rejects it, which is really funny, given that, like, Hanji's speech is, like, the prototypical, like, shonen attitude. That's what a shonen protagonist feels. They'll give up their life for the cause. And Flagle's like, yeah, fuck that shit. I'm not suicidal. And, like, I really do appreciate that. Flagle's a really good character. But then we go back to Marlo and Hitch, who, as I said before, are the best part of the episode. And really, we see, as Marlo tries to get into the Scouts, because he genuinely believes in the Scouts, and that, like, they're doing the right thing, even if, especially once they find out that, at first they're mad, because Marlo, if I recall correctly, had a bit of a crush on Annie in Season 1, and Hitch was her roommate, and they blame the Scouts for her death. And then Levi is like, yeah, she didn't die. She was the Titan that you think killed her. And that kind of gets Marlo like, oh, shit. All of Marlo and Hitch's, like, concerns are kind of blown away by the fact that, like, Annie was the one that did this. Even if Hitch still has a point in a lot of all this. That, like, the Scouts did kind of, like, because they didn't think to, or because they couldn't get Annie out of Stoess, 100 people died. And that's a lot. Even in Attack on Titan, 100 people is a lot. But the scene really does a great job of making them into the, full three-dimensional people, even though, like, especially because they were, like, bit parts in a singular episode in Season 1. And now they're, I'm really looking forward to them being main characters throughout the rest of the season. I don't know if they are, because I've not read the manga, but I really hope they are, because they're quickly becoming faves. So then, then Jean takes Marlo and Hitch out. He tells them that he's gonna let them go as long as they promise not to say anything. But then he pretends to try to execute them because they know too much, which is just the exact same thing as the MPs. And my first thought was that it was some ridiculously bad writing, because Jean was the one person who was like, I can't believe we're actually resorting to torture. Back when Hanji and Levi were trying to, get info out of Sanus in 39, I think it was. And I was sitting there watching, like, the guy who was, objecting, who was the only person to have any objections to Sanus getting tortured, is now just gonna murder Marlo and Hitch. But then, we found out that he was just testing them, and the gun he had placed up to Marlo's head was just a stick, even though Hitch did, like, smash him against the head. But yeah, that was a much better scene than I thought it was initially, even if, he's testing them is just kind of Though it was pretty great when, like, he walks forward to them and just trips on the ground. That was a really funny bit. Even if it just kind of, like, threw me off guard. It was a weird scene to watch, but it was actually pretty funny. And so, you eventually find out that, when they initially capture Marlo and Hitch, Levi takes their uniforms in order to, like, pass themselves off as MPs. So, when Marlo and Hitch join them and they come to the checkpoint, my first thought is, oh, they're going to use their MP outfits to sneak into the checkpoint. But no, they throw a cart at it and, like, break their way through. Which was really funny. But it was a little bit weird. And then after that, we finally got back to the Flagle plot, where Flagle has seemingly done a 180 on his, earlier mentioned, I'm not getting involved in this shit. Because he is right back working with Hanji, which I found weird, even if I did really like the scene. But, like, it was odd that Buzzcut is so perfectly forthcoming, right? Like, Flagle's like, oh, tell me why you killed my dad before I die. And, the Buzzcut officer just says everything. And then, of course, Hanji has, like, half of Trost hiding in the wings. And so I mentioned last week, I think it was, that last week or the week before, that I definitely see Trost as becoming, the Scout stronghold through the through the like war, through the civil war that's like clearly coming. Because let's all be honest, Erwin's peaceful revolution is not going to happen. That's the most ridiculous. That besides a memory altering, that's the most ridiculous thing in this franchise. But yeah, so definitely with Flakel seemingly taking control of Trost. If the scouts all come to Trost and set up base there, I can definitely see them holding out against the MPs, especially because the MPs make the big mistake of only being 10% of every cadet corps, or no, it's the top 10 of every cadet corps. So they have at most maybe 300 people, whereas everyone else, especially with Pixis joining the rebellion last week, the garrison's there. He can rally the garrison to Trost. The scouts could join up in Trost, and that would be a real good stronghold, a real good, easily defendable stronghold against the king. If that's where this whole arc goes, I definitely see Trost as being a really great base, even if it might be better if it were a little bit closer to the interior. Just the MPs aren't going to really be going outside Wall Road, so Trost is a pretty good defendable place. That's kind of my that's kind of my military strategy for the week. But then we cut back to Levi Squad, and they are torturing the leader of that checkpoint, who's also in the Interior Police, or the same group that killed Nick. Try to find out where Eren and Historia are, because it's really the only thing about Eren and Historia we get this week, which honestly, given how good last season was, just by throwing Eren away for half of it, I don't really mind Eren being gone. I like Eren, but last season was so good just by not having Eren around, so I'm fine with this. But the guy they're attacking casually mentions Kenny's last name being Ackerman. And there's this really nice background bit. I really love it when we see characters reacting to news that really matters to them, and we don't focus on it, which is something that Titan's very good at. The infamous, by the way, I'm the armored Titan and Bertolt's the colossal Titan. I was right about to say Colossal is the Bertolt Titan, which is not what I meant to say. But when Mikasa hears Kenny's last name's Ackerman, there's no attention brought to it whatsoever. But you see Mikasa's eyes widen, and she's like, "Oh fuck, what does that mean? Huh? I'm not what?" And so I don't know what. I don't know what that means. Especially because Mikasa and Kenny have really no interactions. And we don't really know if Mikasa even knows that Kenny exists, other than she's the guy attacking them right now. We don't really know anything about Kenny at all, which I feel kind of does damper the impact of them finding out that Kenny is an Ackerman. But yeah, it's still just really nice, attention to detail, and not really showing how important it is to our face. Then right before the end of the episode, Nile shows up in Erwin's prison chamber, and Erwin starts asking him how his family is. And when Erwin first mentioned they lived in Stohes, I thought it was about to be revealed that they died in the end of Season 1, and I was not really ready for that. But they're still alive, and Erwin asks some weird questions that I think he's trying to get Nile to join the rebellion, if I'm not misreading that. And definitely, just by what we've seen of Nile so far, how he's not exactly, positive that the king is doing the right thing. That he's certainly not happy about the ODM guns. I can definitely see Nile getting on board with the rebellion. But then, right after that, Erwin is brought before the king. We cut to the To Be Continued, and just based on the next time preview, it definitely looks like the rebellion is starting just in full force. With episode 42. Definitely, we see Pixis storm into. We see Pixis in the audience chamber. It definitely looks like that's really where we're going. But yeah, all in all, this was a really fun episode. The season has definitely been a lot, I feel, slower than especially season 2. That was just super fast and everything just moved. There's a lot of time to breathe in this season, and I do like that. We don't quite have the the adrenaline rush of season 2. But yeah, this was a fun episode. Did a great work, like making the MPs seem like people. I really hope Marlo and Hitch become main characters from here on out because they're just really well written. And yeah, this was a great episode. It was a lot of fun. Not Titan at its best, of course, but like it's a slower episode. That's really all you need. So yeah, hope you all enjoyed this episode and the video. If you did, feel free to drop me a like, subscribe, or whatever the fuck you want. I don't really care. And as always, people, keep kicking ass, and I'll see you in the future. Bye.